Before I start this video, I'd like to apologize. Getting this game to run properly on my computer was a pain in the ass. So a lot of the initial footage I captured would be at pretty low settings of the game at 30 frames per second. I also used some footage from other YouTubers online, which I would link in the description. Luckily, I managed to fix the issue later and get the game running better and much more smoothly. So you guys gonna have to make do with what I have got. But anyway, let's start this video. Assassin's Creed Unity is Ubisoft's most ambitious game to date. They really wanted to overhaul pretty much everything with this new entry. The graphics, the gameplay, the stealth, and really give us a next-gen assassin fantasy. AC Unity had some insane marketing and Ubisoft went so damn hard on it. The fans were beyond excited for this brand new AC game. I mean, who wouldn't be, seeing such a beautiful next-gen recreation of Paris, such slick-looking parkour and gameplay, and so much passion evoking from the devs. It's such a shame that we all know how this game turned out at the end. But over the years, this game has had quite a redemption arc. People really are flocking back into this game and seeing the remnants of what could have been. And today I'll be doing the same. It's been 10 years since AC Unity came out and I figured that I should revisit this game. After all, it's been quite a while since I played it. So similarly to my previous two videos, I'd be revisiting and overanalyzing AC Unity since I have no life. This video would be structured differently to my previous two videos as it's good to change things up a bit as it could get quite boring to do the same thing over and over again. So I hope you guys would enjoy this video, like and subscribe if you did, and without further ado, let's dive right into this. So where should we start? Let's start from the beginning, which is...
Hey there. This is probably disorienting, so I'll be brief.
Oh please fuck off, Bishop. Anyway, this game has the weirdest start. Like, why are we playing as some random Templar? It's really bizarre and adds nothing to the game in my opinion. Although it is pretty cool to see the Levantine assassins and their cool black robes, but other than that, it feels like a waste. After that bizarre intro, we are introduced to Arno and Paris. Let me first get to the city of Paris. It is absolutely gorgeous. The graphics of this game hold up so well, even in today's day and age. Roaming the bustling streets and appreciating the beautiful visual recreation of Notre Dame is just pure vibes, man. I mean, honestly, this game looks much better than the most recent video games these days. It's insane. Of course, with this much of a boost in visual fidelity and tech, there's bound to be some consequences. And boy, Unity had some real serious ones. The serious consequences being the glitches that it brought along with it. Now let's address the elephant in the room. It is well-known fact that Unity came out extremely buggy during launch. It was pretty much unplayable with the amount of bugs people faced with this game, making it one of Ubisoft's most disastrous launches to date. Now people say that most of these bugs have been ironed out, but I hate to break it to you guys, but this game is still very much broken. Of course not as much as it was during launch, yet I still saw quite a few glitches and some of them were legit comical to a point, which I didn't expect coming from this game in 2024. And I know Unity fans would be angry at me calling this game a broken mess at times, and I can completely understand why other people's experiences might be different. Maybe they encountered less of these bugs. But I make these videos talking about my own experience with this game, and I did feel that these glitches definitely harmed quite a bit of it. Anyway, getting to Arno as a protagonist, I actually quite liked him in the beginning. He gives major Ezio vibes with him being pretty charming and funny. His robes even match those of Ezio during the beginning of AC2. I feel like this is intentionally done, both as a cool throwback and also a way to show how both these characters' arcs mirror each other, where one major event completely changed the lives of these men and set them on a path to become assassins, as they go from being immature boys to grown-up and serious men. Although one is much better executed than the other, and I'll talk about why it kind of falls flat with Arno in a second. Before that, let's actually get into the parkour now. Now most of the fans nowadays believe that this game has the best parkour in the series, and while I do get why they think this way, as I used to as well at one point before replaying this game again, I think the parkour in Unity is quite sluggish and clunky. It also feels slower to navigate buildings using parkour than it ever did in AC1 or the Ezio games. This is purely because the parkour in those games was way more responsive, as you can quickly cancel out your climb and do a quick side or back eject, which made traversing up buildings a lot faster. With Unity, however, there's quite a delay for the game to respond to your button prompts, and there's less incentive to use side and back ejects. Another thing I noticed is that the parkour is quite unresponsive at times. Like, I would want Arno to jump on a certain beam or bar, yet he decides to jump up or down. It's really quite frustrating. Another annoying thing is getting inside windows of open buildings. Like seriously, the game sometimes takes ages to respond to the right button prompt to enter inside the building, and Arno just climbs up and over the window instead. And of course, people would say that the earlier AC games also had clunky issues like this, and sure they did. But at least it serves its function of going from point A to point B in the most functional and stylish way. Sure, Unity achieves the latter part of this, and I do think some of the climbing animations do look pretty cool, but it's the functionality that I have issues with. Another thing I find odd is how Arno can take such gravity-defying leaps across buildings. Like it just feels very jarring and clunky to look at. Another thing is that you can't really throw yourself off buildings as freely as you could in the early games. The game would just automatically make you free run down and do a controlled descent instead. It's also pretty hard to catch ledges in Unity, a feature in the older games where you could catch ledges of buildings by a quick press of a button when throwing yourself off a tall building. I know this might not affect people who play these games casually, yet for parkour enthusiasts of the series, it certainly does disappoint them, as they like the challenge and the coolness to pull off these crazy moves in AC1. It's possible to do these in Unity of course, as you can see YouTubers online do it. But again, it's pretty damn hard considering how unresponsive the system really is. AC Unity's parkour, while being stylish and cool to look at, just misses the fundamental point of it. The old games, as much as they were clunky, at least the parkour system worked more consistently, as 9 times out of 10, the game would react instantly to your button press. Those were really all my thoughts on Unity's parkour system. Moving on to the stealth, it definitely feels like a step up with huge NPC crowds for social stealth. Just walking through these crowds makes me feel like a silent badass predator on the hunt. Enemy detection also works slightly differently, where guards will track you based on your last known position, which is indicated by the ghost that pops up from behind you. You can crouch anytime by the press of the left trigger, which, as much as it helps in these situations, does feel a little odd and more suspicious than not doing it, to be honest. You can hide behind covers and quickly change between them too. You also have new tools at your disposal, like the Phantom Blade to take out guards quickly and with minimal noise. You can turn them berserk using the Berserk Blade, which is similar to what you could do in Black Flag. Cherry bombs are also a tool to attract guards, but honestly, these never work properly every time I tried to use them, so they are quite freaking useless. There are also certain skills like the disguise skill, which although helpful does feel quite jarring and weird, and I don't like using it. The one thing that is a bit annoying is how fucked the detection system is in this game. Sometimes guards will spot me out of nowhere, and it's pretty freaking annoying when you're doing quite well during a stealth section. I do like that there are massive playgrounds to utilize stealth in this game, and it gives you more opportunities to do unique stealth kills. Now let's shift our attention back to the main story. Mr. de la Serre, Elise's father, gets murdered and Arno is framed for it and put in prison, where we meet Belek, who is quite a cool side character and one of the only ones that I do remember from this game, besides Elise of course. We break out of prison and Arno goes to Elise to explain himself. Speaking of Elise and her relationship to Arno, I wasn't really into a character when I first played the game, but she sorta has grown on me, especially after reading her letters that you could find in Arno's room at the cafe theater. I liked her banter and back and forth with Arno, and I do dig their relationship. And it feels sad that they both have to be on the opposing sides of the coin. Arno an assassin and Elise a Templar. What does annoy me however is that Arno seeks redemption, but for the wrong reason. He really is only doing it for Elise to make sure she doesn't dump his ass, not because he wants to find out a deep conspiracy behind her father's death. I swear Arno is such a damn simp in this game, which is why I would go back to the old point of why Arno's arc of growth isn't really handled well enough, as you barely get to see what sort of relation Arno had with Mr. de la Serre. Whilst in the Ezio trilogy, we get an entire mission dedicated to each of Ezio's family members to flesh them out and their relationship with Ezio, before absolutely shocking us with the death of his fathers and brothers, which really hooks us to Ezio's journey of growth and stepping up to be the man of his family to protect his mother and sister. But Arno's intention here is just to get some pussy. He goes to the assassins and we get this cool drug sequence as Arno is initiated into the Assassin Brotherhood. From here onwards, we start assassinating targets and start unraveling this conspiracy of Assassin and Templars. One thing I noticed is how similar the structure and setup of most sequences in this game are to AC1. As you spend a mission or two investigating your targets and then you finally carry out the assassination using all you learn about them. It's really quite cool and a nice throwback to the original. Getting to the black box assassinations, which is the main strength of Assassin's Creed Unity's gameplay, these are open-ended assassination missions where you get to decide how you want to carry out the assassination. There are also certain opportunities available from which you could benefit from by interacting with them. These could give you a rare window of opportunity to strike, or could provide you with the perfect escape or distraction. It's very similar in design to the recent Hitman games. My only criticism with these is that I'm not a fan of how the game just tells you where these opportunities are instead of you coming across it on your own whilst infiltrating the area. I don't get why they got rid of these after Syndicate, as they were genuinely the best part about these games. After killing our first target, we have this cool Rift mission. These are there throughout the main game where you get to see Paris across different time periods. Even after beating the story, you can do them, but the layout is slightly different, where you collect data packets. After collecting these data packets, you rescue a fellow brother Assassino and then exit out of the portal. Of course, these aren't as straightforward as sometimes you get hurdles such as tornadoes. I really like these rifts as they were a nice change of pace from the main game. There are also artifacts you could find in these rifts. Upon collecting all of these, you unlock Altair's outfit, which is pretty nice. After this, we are fully let out into the open world to explore. Exploring around Paris and doing side activities is cool. This game does have some decent side content for the most part. First of all, you have the Paris story side missions. These work great to flesh out the world, and I also like that each mission is different from each other. Other than that, you have random crowd events. After completing a set of these events, you get a reward. These were just whatever. I like that you don't spend too much time on these, as I can just slit the throats of criminals really quick and move on with my day. Sometimes I wish I could do that in real life. Yeah, I need some mental help. My favorite piece of side content in this game though are the murder mysteries. These are really interesting as you piece together what evidence you find after investigating each area linked to the murder victim. It's like a puzzle in a way. Using all the evidence and people you've interacted with, you're supposed to make a guess as to who's the murderer. Making the right guess the first time around would give you the full rewards, but if you make one false accusation, your rewards will be reduced. It's really fun and challenges the player to think and pay attention to all the clues and details. Another cool puzzle to solve are the Notre Dame's enigmas. You basically have to solve riddles by finding the location of the symbol. These were pretty hard to do for me, but I liked the challenge. Doing all these would unlock the Thomas de Corleone armor, which are the black Levantine assassin robes. This outfit looks badass and easily one of my favorites from the game. Speaking of outfits, I gotta say the customization in this game is some of the best I've seen in video games. There are so many combinations of robes you can create for Arno, and these are just not cosmetic, as having parts of the armor equipped increases certain stats of the player like more health or increased stealth. It's crazy. There are also weapons of all kinds such as spears, heavy axes and swords that you can purchase. These also have stats. By equipping the weapons and armor, you have a higher rating. You can also upgrade your weapons to have higher stats, but it's always better to get weapons of higher rating. By having weapons and armor of higher rating, you change your overall rating to be higher, with 5-star being the highest rating. Also, it's really important to have the best gear before starting a high difficulty mission, as it fucked me over numerous times. The one thing I would say however is that the lower rated robes in this game look a lot better than the robes with the higher rating, so it gives less incentive to change them. I also want to touch upon the skill tree. You unlock skills using creed points which you get by completing missions. Pretty rudimentary and basic. The skill tree is mostly whack to be honest, and I'm not a fan of its presentation. I mean, it's not even a tree, it's just a bunch of blocks. I feel like this is where AC slowly started to add things just because other games were doing it. Hence why literally most single player AAA games have skill trees nowadays, and they just feel tacked on and cheap to me. This is similar with the case of AC Unity. I don't like it, and most skills would only be useful to the player in co-op, which I'll get to in a bit. Now getting to the combat of the game, it's certainly an evolution in some ways of the parry counter kill system. You can parry guards and stun them so you could land a quick hit on them. You could also use moves like the stagger strike to knock the enemy off balance to get more good hits in. Also, I'd like to give you a pro tip. If you're surrounded by lots of high level guards, just throw a smoke bomb and take them out that way. Now, as much as I like the finishers in this game, man, they look clunky as hell. I would say that it's a fairly decent combat system, however really unpolished, which was the state of most of the game at launch. And another thing that really bothers me, why are guns so OP in this game? Like I get snipers one-shotting me, but even normal guards just shooting me, it takes out over half my health. It's absolutely insane and not very well balanced at all. I would say the same about the difficulty with this game, as sometimes guards would just one-shot me out of nowhere, which makes the combat very frustrating to deal with. Moving on, another feature that Unity introduced was co-op. I've heard that co-op in Unity is still pretty buggy and just a mess in general, but I had a fairly decent experience with it. Maybe I just got lucky. In co-op, you could either carry out heists or bigger main missions. Although I enjoyed doing heists way more. In heists, you pretty much steal some artifact or document from the Templars. The one thing I like about heists is that using stealth is essential if you want to get full rewards, as the rewards bar would drop as soon as you get into open conflict. I like it as it adds a challenge for you and your friends to overcome. Co-op is typically fun, but honestly I'd rather have these as normal side content than be restricted to co-op. I get why co-op could be fun, but I'd rather do these missions on my own. Another thing I wanted to talk about is what is up with the ranks in this game. Like you randomly get called titles such as Advanced Enforcer or something. You rank up to another fancy title by getting assassin points, which could be done by doing assassin things I guess. I mean, it doesn't make any sense, and it doesn't necessarily mean anything, since the star rating determines how strong you are in the game, not your rank title. So why do this? It's weird and kinda useless too. We also have these companion missions which are pretty much like assassination contracts where you're tasked with killing some random dude, making these just as bad as the ones from AC3, as there is no context or even challenge or difficulty to do these. But hey, these missions do reward you handsomely, some even more so than the other side content in the game, which is really strange. Some of these also involve you protecting a civilian or stealing a document, but these are pretty mind-numbingly boring. These missions are pretty much there just for the sake of adding another side content to do in the world because they're just so repetitive. Around this point of the game, we also get introduced to the Cafe Theatre. This operates as a main hub of the assassins in Paris. It is quite similar to Montergioni from EC2, where you can renovate parts of the theatre and also open other cafe theatres across Paris, which are known as social clubs. Renovating these gives you income from your investments which you can collect. Again, very similar to AC2, though you have a limit as to how much income that can be stored in the chest. So you have to renovate other social clubs across Paris in order to increase the chest capacity, so more money for you. You also unlock social club missions by renovating them, but these really are nothing but just generic side missions. You also unlock cafe theatre missions that you could do by renovating more parts of the cafe. This is a cool little addition and a nice throwback to the Ezio games. However, I didn't feel inclined to do many of these, as narratively it makes no sense as to why Arno would even engage with these in the first place. Think about it. Arno's main intention in this game is to find Mr. Delassere's killer. He's not remotely interested in running a side business. Whilst in AC2, it made sense for Ezio to do this, as upgrading the villa and the city of Montergioni would keep the place more well guarded and safe from enemies. So his mother and sister are safe, and playing through AC2, we all know how much Ezio cares about his family. So it very much gives the player the narrative incentives to do these. Hell, even AC3 does it better, where you could connect with the people in the homestead by playing through each side mission with them, and not only do these characters grow, but so does the homestead and even Connor as a person. However, I didn't feel the same way about Unity's Cafe Theatre, as it doesn't really serve much of a purpose besides making quick cash on the side. And it's fine if you're into that, but I wish there was a much more deeper reason to interact with this system, as it just feels very shallow. Anyway, jumping back to the main story, Arno is just on a Templar murder spree. I have nothing much to say about the Templars in this game, they're just super boring and lackluster. The only thing I know about the Templars is that Germain, the main bad guy of this game, is a sage, which really adds nothing to the main story. I could say the same about the assassins in this game, which is quite a shame as I miss the nuanced writing of this series, that both of these sides are more than just black and white. The only time the game sort of touches on this is when Belek is revealed to be Mirabeau's killer and Arno confronts him. I do like this boss fight quite a lot. I don't know, the setting, the vibes and the tension, it's pretty well handled. I also think Belek is quite an underutilized character in this game. I wish he had a bigger role to play and didn't die so quickly. I also really love his robes. One major piece of criticism that I do have with regards to the Assassin's Creed Unity story is that why the hell are the characters speaking in an English accent? Like, it makes no sense for a game set in France. And it really just breaks the immersion, and I'm not a fan of it. It's really stupid, and I feel like Ubisoft only did it to appeal to the casual audience so they could understand the dialogue better. I don't know, that's the only sound reason as to why they would do this, because this is just dumb. Getting towards the end of the game, Arno really starts to get annoying, and it's really evident that he's a beta cuck simp at this point, using every opportunity to fuck up, and is like, but I don't want you hurt, Elise, how else am I gonna get pussy? It's such a shame because I quite liked Arno. He's like that mate who's pretty chill to hang around when he's not simping all over women. So me basically, except I simp over men. The last boss fight scene is quite cool though, especially seeing the Sword of Eden in action, it's pretty freaking cool. I do feel sorta bad when Elise dies at the end. I just wish there was more to her character besides just being a love interest and a tool to push Arno's story forward. It might have been interesting to play as her for a bit, to see her reaction to her father's death and how she navigates life being a Templar and how she comes to understand their beliefs and values. Sort of like Hatham from AC3. It would have been interesting to see things from a different perspective for a bit, if not the whole game. And no, I'm not talking about the stupid Jacques de Molay mission at the start, like actually well done like AC3. Anyway, that's really it for the overall narrative of Assassin's Creed Unity. I'm not really gonna touch upon the modern day as it's barely present and not worth my time to discuss it. It ends with this great monologue from Arno, which is quite a nice way to wrap up the game. I do think the story of Unity is serviceable, but I feel like a lot of the interesting subplots and nuance that might have been in this game initially was dropped to appeal to a bigger audience, which really sucks for fans like me. I see the potential of this story, it just fails to be anything more. It's just mediocre. Assassin's Creed Unity is the last game that actually attempts to be an AC game. I know Mirage attempts it too, and I have yet to check it out. Who knows, I might play and do a video on it in the future. But Unity as a game after all the disaster it went through isn't that bad. I could see the remnants of potential of what this game could have been. It's such a shame that instead of improving what Unity did and building on top of it, the franchise went a completely different route, one that made it lose all its identity and its uniqueness. This game really was a turning point not only for Assassin's Creed but also Ubisoft, as they stopped taking risks and innovating with their games, hence why they got the reputation that they have now. Well, for other reasons too, but we'll not get into that right now. That being said, I enjoyed my time with Assassin's Creed Unity. It's not perfect, yet it's not a completely bad game either, and the people see that too. There's a reason why Unity videos dominate the YouTube platform. I do disagree with some takes with regards to the parkour and the game being completely fixed now, but other than that, like the others, I do like this game. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Like and subscribe if you did. I wanted to try something new out with this video by structuring it differently to my previous AC retrospectives. I gotta say, I enjoyed making this video and revisiting Unity. I would like to make more of this type of content and also experiment with new things to really grow as a content creator. And if you guys want to see more of that, you know what to do. But that's really it. Hope you guys enjoyed. Have a great day and I'll see you very soon with another video. Bye.